Hi, everybody. Sorry, I needed a little technical hand holding there. I am so happy to be here and to tell you today about the mysteries of trivia, the triple goddess of the crossroads. So, this presentation is just divided up into a few different sort of aspects of this topic. The first section is sacred crossings. Uh, This is just a relevant quote. The writer operates at a peculiar crossroads where time and place and eternity somehow meet. His problem is to find that location. That is Flannery O'Connor. Notice the three specifics she gives there: time, place, and eternity. What is it about the crossroads that is so compelling and mysterious? A typical four-way crossroads calls to mind the four directions, perhaps the four elements, left, right, front, and back. It is a quintessential earthbound physical representation of space and choice. Four is the number of structure, shelter, containment. Four is made of earth. The trivium, or three-way crossroads, defies these mundane parameters and instead reaches into our subconscious mind, into our psyche, where it bridges the seen with the unseen, the perceived with the occulted. Three is a sacred number. It is the first polygon and the most stable two-dimensional shape. Three represents birth, growth, and expansion. Three is a light with fire, the element of purification and transformation, transcendence. The mystical significance of the number three is exemplified across cultures and millennia. The trivium embodies a different set of principles, elemental and magical. The three-way crossroad was not just the meeting of three roads, but the ancients considered it the liminal juncture between the underworld of the dead, the earthly plane of the living, and the celestial realm of the gods and spirits. The trivium was touched by all three realms, but belonged to none of them. The trivium reflects a mystic triplicity in numerous iterations. Some examples: birth, life, and death, as we may see with the triple goddesses of fate. Past, present, and future: earth, heaven, and hell. Body, mind, spirit. There's any number of permutations of this mystic triplicity. In the ancient world, this meeting of the three roads was so potent it was necessarily overseen by a divine being. On the earthly plane, crossroads of all enumerations were essential to travel, migration, military campaigns, and trade routes. They were meeting places for the wealthy, privileged, and powerful, as well as the poor and outcast, often located on the outskirts of cities, between civilization and the untamed wilderness, and near cemeteries where spirits of all kinds congregated. Tangentially, brothels and other institutions of questionable integrity often sprang up in proximity to them. Crossroads were places of power where fortunes could be made or broken, necessitating respect, caution, and divine propitiation. Any place, object, or natural phenomenon that was so saturated with magic was also inherently dangerous, both physically and spiritually. The crossroads was not only a place where weary travelers might fall victim to opportunistic criminals, but was also naturally susceptible to the unpredictability of wild places and the variety of unquiet spirits that gravitated to its otherworldly power. Offering reverence to a deity or spirit at these liminal places became essential to the health and well-being of the community and all those who traveled through it. And now, gods of the road. Such is life, imaginary or otherwise, a continuous parting of ways, a constant flux of approximation and distanciation, lines of fate intersecting at a point which is no time, a theoretical crossroads fictitiously present, an unstable ice floe forever drifting between was and will be. This is from a book called Beginner's Luke by Saul Luckman. In the classical world, the deities most associated with crossroads were Hermes and Hecate. This was due to their liminal nature as psychopomps, both being known for their ability to move between the realms of the living and the dead, guiding souls of the deceased into the afterlife. Hermes was specifically associated with travelers and exploration, while Titan goddess Hecate was more closely associated with mystical thresholds, such as the thresholds of birth and death. Over time, both Hermes and Hecate came to be known as deities of the crossroads, empowering them further with magic, necromancy, and sorcery. Both Hecate and Hermes were known to have triple aspects. In the 1st century BCE, Hermes became known as Hermes Trismegistus, a syncretization of the Greek Hermes and the Egyptian god of wisdom Thoth, and he was known as Hermes the Thrice Great. Hecate, who in her earliest descriptions was given rulership over 3 realms of earth, sea, and sky by Zeus, became popularly imagined as a 3-formed goddess, Hecate Trimorphos. Hermes was venerated at crossroads with a variety of monuments known as herms, perhaps related to the Greek word hermata, meaning blocks of stone. Originally, these were simply piles of stones upon which passerby added their own stones to as a form of propitiation. These piles evolved into singular monuments, most commonly a 4-sided pillar topped with a sculpture of the god's head, and sometimes the addition of his genitalia at the appropriate height, which you can see in the image here. These sacred pillars were honored by travelers with offerings and anointed with oils. Hermes' sacred number was 4, so we might surmise that the 4-way crossroads were particularly suited to him. As the sacred herms evolved in their importance and physical forms, Hecate was adopted as the principal goddess of crossroads, especially those where 3 roads meet, due likely to her divine association with earth, sea, and sky. Her triple image was placed at the center of 3-way crossroads as an apotropaic guardian and way-shower. The earliest known sculpture of Hecate as triple-faced or bodied was believed to be created by Alcamenes in the late 5th century BCE. These triple representations were called Hecatea, and smaller versions of these statues were placed at the entrance to homes for protection and prosperity. And this image that we're seeing here on the left is a Hecateon that is pictured with not just the 3 images of Hecate, but the charities that are seen holding hands around her, slightly smaller. And this is an Attic sculpture from the 3rd century BCE. While the ancient Greeks explored and colonized much of the Mediterranean by sea, the conquering Romans expanded their empire broadly over both land and sea. The religion of the Roman Empire was profoundly influenced by the gods of their subjects by virtue of Interpretatio Romana, in which the gods of foreign peoples were correlated and syncretized to the qualities of the Romans' own divinities. In this exchange, Mercury or Mercurius was the Roman equivalent to Hermes, and Hecate was thoroughly incorporated into Roman society of her own accord. The Roman reliance on road engineering and the importance of mapping the empire gave even greater precedence to the goddess of crossroads, and by the 1st century BCE, Hecate absorbed the epithet trivia as a specific reference to the 3-way meeting of roads. Hecate grew to be associated with the moon and its magic, as did her Greek and Roman counterparts, Artemis and Diana. Artemis actually being Hecate's cousin in most theogonies. Although Hecate's most ancient form was chthonic, relating to the dark earth, the underworld, caves, thresholds, and liminal realms, by the 5th century BCE, She had quote unquote risen to also become strongly associated with the moon, night, and witchcraft. Both Artemis and Diana appear to have been originally and anciently associated with the wilderness, animals, and hunting. Their later association with the moon, night, and witchcraft may have been the result of a mythological pairing and contrast with twin brother Apollo, who was in both the Greek and Roman pantheons, the solar god of logic and reason. In any case, both Artemis and Diana became so closely related to Hecate that in many cases they were considered to be the same goddess and were referred to interchangeably. In this way, Diana Hecate became inseparable from Hecate trivia in the Roman world, and as Diana trivia took on more and more the liminal qualities of night and magic that had become the primary realm of the Greek Hecate. So, one of the oldest references we have to the goddess trivia, the Roman goddess trivia, is from Varro's De Lingua Latina, which was a very lengthy sort of dictionary of Latin words and their roots and how they related to the languages of other cultures. Trivium autem a triviae id est a Diana, quae apud Grecos Hecate dicitur a triplici potentia, qua omnia intercedit et omnia precedit. I have no idea. I probably butchered that horribly. The term trivia, the three ways, comes from trivia, that is, from Diana, who is called Hecate among the Greeks because of her triple power, by which she intervenes in all things and precedes all things. Liminal spirits. Janus and his doorways. He would have you believe that all choices are black or white, yes or no, in or out. In fact, it's not that simple. Wherever you reach the crossroads, there are always at least three ways to go, four if you count going backward. And that is by Rick Riordan, The House of Hades. Throughout the Roman Empire, Mercury and Diana trivia were invoked and venerated at crossroads and along well-traveled routes. They were also accompanied by shrines to other gods and local deities. Across the Gallo-Roman world, shrines and inscriptions to Mercurius Viator, Mercury god of roads, Mercurius Compitalis, Mercury of the crossroads or junctions, and a host of variously named local spirits stand as evidence to the importance of divine protection for road and traveler alike. A caste of archaic spirits known as Lares in the Etruscan and Roman religions were minor deities of the household, neighborhoods, boundaries, crossroads, and natural phenomena of the local landscape. Lares associated with the roads and junctions outside civil settlements were called Lares Viales. These spirits had their own annual festival called the Compitalia, where they were celebrated and offered sacrifices of honey cakes for the good fortune of local households. One of the fascinating aspects of the Compitalia is that families would place a statue of the Etruscan underworld goddess Mania or Mania at the front of their homes, along with hanging woolen dolls or balls representing people on their doors, with petitions to the Lares and Mania to accept these sacrifices in place of the children of the household. Mania herself was a goddess of the dead, spirits, and chaos. She was called Mother of the Lares and Mother of the Maniae, a group of female spirits personifying insanity, madness, and crazed frenzy, as well as Mother of Ghosts, the dead, and other nocturnal spirits. These chthonic qualities are parallel to Hecate's underworld character, mirroring her association with the restless dead, and so also to trivia. Another class of local spirits in the Roman religion, appearing to have evolved from the more ancient lares, associated with roads, crossroads, and travelers of all classes, were called the Diviae, Triviae, and Quadriviae, deities of the intersection of 2, 3, and 4 roads, respectively. These spirits seem to be modeled after the tutelary groups of female goddesses or nymphs found all over Europe and beyond, such as the Matrone, the Moire, the Graces, the Rajanici, and more. Often these goddesses were associated with childbirth, fertility, fate, and death, implicitly, if not directly. These crossroads spirits were often dedicated on votive monuments along with the provincial Sylvanus, a satyr-like tutelary goddess of the god of the forest, uncultivated lands, and wild places. He was a protector of the fields, livestock, and boundaries, worshipped as a fertility figure by the peasant class, and syncretized with Mars as a military cult figure. Like Hermes and Mercury, Sylvanus was said to have laid the first boundary stones in the context of agricultural fields. The worship of Sylvanus appears to have been largely reserved for men, thus it would make sense that he would be venerated alongside the divine nymphs of womanly concerns. While the most commonly preserved inscriptions and icons refer to the quadriviae, the triviae were mentioned exclusively in Dalmatia, which is modern Croatia and the east coast of the Italian peninsula, and with other variations in Germaniae, the Germanic lands, Pannoniae, the interior Balkans east of Dalmatia, and Daciae, which is roughly modern Romania. These deities of the roads were worshipped both privately by all classes of Romans and publicly, especially by the military. And this is a representation of a single artifact that has the diviae, triviae, and quadriviae, called a terra sigillata from Rheinzabern, which is southwestern Germany. So you can see that they were a class of spirits. They were related to each other and were found in these various enumerations, basically all over Europe. Danger and dark magic. Be careful, daughter. You are a creature of the crossroads, neither here nor there. 'Tis a dangerous place to be. This is from A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. The betwixt and between quality of a crossroads made it a powerful locus for sorcery and necromancy. Not only was it believed to be a gateway to the underworld and the dead, but superstitions and folk rituals added to its dark mystique over time, eventually linking it with evil, death, witchcraft, and demons, as Christian dualism conquered much of the Western world. Crossroads, rituals, and superstitions. With Hecate's worship in particular, people would leave a ritual meal at the crossroads at the dark moon known as the Deipnon. Many types of sacrifices were made to appease and appeal to the spirits at crossroads for protection and prosperity. The goddess was known to have a retinue of the restless dead who were especially active at the dark moons, so one must be sure to leave the offering at the crossroads without looking back, or these spirits could cause terror and madness, recalling the role of Mania and her retinue. Conjuring spirits to do the work of the sorcerer was naturally well placed at the crossroads, which led to numerous folk traditions across Europe, Africa, and the Americas about the selling of one's soul for a precious boon, fame, or immortality. Many African traditional religions have specific crossroads deities, spirits, and rituals, enough for an entire presentation in itself. The Greek magical papyri, a collection of spells, hymns, and charms dating from the 2nd century BCE through the 5th century CE, detail numerous sorcerous operations, many of which conjure or call upon Hekate in her dark lunar aspect, along with other associated or syncretized goddesses, such as Diana, Trivia, Cybele, and Selene, related to the crossroads. Some of the epithets referring to her triple aspects mentioned in the PGM are trikarinos, triple-headed, thrinakia, triple-pointed, and trioditis, of the 3 roads. Just a quote from the PGM. And you who frequent the triple way and rule the triple decades with 3 forms and flames and dogs. Crossroads were also places where criminal punishment and execution were performed, and this likely led to the practice of burying the dead in the same location, especially those dead by suicide, which was considered a criminal offense to God in the Christian paradigm. Few more rituals from the classical Greco-Roman era. Disease may be hammered into the ground at a Roman crossroads with a nail. The next passerby will catch the disease when stepping over the nail and carry it away with him.
Not suspecting the Romans.
Good reason to avoid the crossroads. Plato recommended in his laws that Greek parricides, that is, the murder of a parent or parents, be cast naked onto the crossroads. Thereafter, town officials should assemble and cast stones at the body to purify the city of criminal pollution. So here you see that echo of the herms and the stones that people would add to them as they passed by.
So those were actually burial cairns, maybe, for the
Potentially,
parasites.
yes. A goat might be sacrificed at the crossroads in Greece to keep wolves away from the flocks and herds nearby. So this image on the left here is actually really interesting. It's a juniper wood hecateon from Ptolemaic Egypt, 4th century BCE. So that is quite old.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it has been preserved as a wooden artifact is amazing. And now I just wanted to recite to you part of the prayer to Selene for any operation, which comes from the PGM, because it really exemplifies all of these triple aspects of the goddess. O 3-faced Selene, come to me, beloved goddess, graciously hear my sacred spells, image of night, youthful one, dawn-born, light bringer to mortals who rides upon fierce-eyed bulls. O queen, you who drive your chariot on equal course with Helios, you dance with the triple forms of the triple graces as you revel with the stars. You are justice and the thread of the fates, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. O 3-headed one, you are Persephone, Megara, and Alecto. O one of many shapes, who arm your hands with terrible dark glowing lamps, who shakes locks of fearsome serpents at your brow, whose mouths send forth the roar of bulls, whose womb is thick with reptile scales, at whose shoulders are rows of venomous serpents, bound across your back beneath murderous chains. Bull-faced and bull-headed one, you have the eyes of bulls and the voice of dogs. Your forms are hidden in the legs of lions. Your ankle is wolf-shaped, and savage dogs are friendly to you. Wherefore they call you Hekate, many-named Mine, cleaving the air like arrow-shooting Artemis, O goddess of 4 faces, 4 names, 4 ways. Artemis, Persephone, deer shooter, night shiner, thrice resounding, triple voiced, 3-headed, thrice named Selene, O trident bearing one of 3 faces, 3 necks, 3 ways, who holds undying flaming fire in triple baskets. You frequent the 3 ways and are mistress of the 3 decades. That is like a quarter of this particular invocation. And now to close, what is your sacred trivium? I invite you now to contemplate your own gifts, skills, and inherent powers. How might these three realms come together in your own sacred trivium? You are the mythic Hecateon of your own life, and all those loved ones, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, and strangers who cross your path have a chance to experience your magic. What are three or more realms that meet at the junction of you? What might be the inscription at your base, as you see here in the image? What offerings or reciprocation would you desire for your favor? And what is within your power to provide protection, guidance, and blessing on those who come to your trivium? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.